Hello, my name is Amir Reisman, and I am the director of ITC Northern Training Centers. So, in essence, I'm in charge of ITC resilience work in Northern Israel. I'm 47 years old, married to my love, Sarit, and the proud parent of a boy and a girl, Yoav and Noga, living today in Israel North, near the city of Haifa. I have over 25 years of experience in different fields, mainly in the fields of organizational development, team development, and psychosocial interventions. I have started my career as an organizational psychologist in the army, mainly with different positions in the infantry, continued later on as a freelance with different international corporations, and later on became the manager of the learning and development group at Intel Development Centers in Israel. In the last 10 years or so, I have worked with ITC, first as a practitioner with one of ITC NGOs, and for the past 6 years or so, I am the director of ITC Northern Training Centers. During the last 20 years, I have also served as a Home Front Command Reserve Officer in the field of civil society behavior, and took part in different emergencies, many emergencies. And this, I think, in a sense, contributed much to my passion of this field. Today, my work includes supporting government offices, local councils, caregivers, first responders, local communities, and community leadership. For my personal and professional growth, I'm also pursuing my PhD, focusing on the work of Israel Resilience Centers, managed for Israel government by ITC. We also see the resilience as an important topic to embark on in times of different crises which are not war-related, like COVID-19, economic crises, earthquake times, and so on. So we have a lot of different crisis enablers. Okay, usually ITC work is with those crises which are not man-made. Okay, meaning fires, meaning earthquake, meaning terror attacks, meaning wars. But we do feel it's a must to intervene in times like the last year, which COVID-19 have brought not only the disease and took place and still taking place, but also different circles of influence like economic crisis, the different leadership challenge within the local municipalities and within the government, the different challenges that are now within the population to create hope and to create the opportunity to learn and develop from within those crises and to carry on and even flourish from that crisis. So there is, as one of my colleagues used to say a long time ago, there are too many crises, okay, for one, okay, to fight about. So we have too many, okay, and we have too much work. The work is endless, really endless. And the best thing that I enjoy in the work that from when you're doing the work right in time of in tranquil times, the work for emergency preparedness, for resilience building, for training professionals is not only is not something that is waiting only for time of harshness. It's also something that builds a resilience as a capacity for the population and for the professionals. Also in the day-to-day, it is very helpful. And we see many of those, many of our partners, of our different colleagues, which are pretty much flourishing when they receive those trainings and those in that support. It's an amazing. It's a very it's a very humanistic work. Okay, I can say.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think, when people come together, it makes the work that you do just a little bit easier because, it's teamwork makes a dream work, as they would say, and I think we're, super excited to chat with you about that and about different things. But I think, we really want to go into first to just tell us a little bit more about, when the COVID virus first hit Israel, like how did that impact your life, both personally, if you want to touch into that, or even just your work life? Like, were you home now? Like, did you still have to commute to work? Like, what was that like for you?
Okay, so in order to understand how did it impacted my life, I will talk a bit about how my life was before.
Yeah.
Okay, so before COVID-19 started to appear, my day-to-day was built of a small portion of office time. Okay, my office is in Haifa, but
Mhm.
most of the days I'm traveling from different partners along the north. Okay, starting at the Golan Heights. Okay, at Kiryat Shmona, which is very far,
Mhm.
and going down to the area of what we call Wadi Ara, which is from El Fachem to Hadera. Okay, going to Beit She'an, area of the east and the Kinneret.
Mhm.
It's going all over. So pretty much most of my time is traveling, is having appointments, is building programs, is building trainings. It's engaging, okay, our partners to have better ideas, better programs, and to build partnership which are pretty much I would categorize them as a round tables. Okay, we are trying to have more people around the table from different councils, from different angles of topic, from different levels of the hierarchy, from the ministries to the local councils, from the community to the up until the ministry, and uh, all that, okay, brought me to the day the COVID-19 started, and we started hearing those rumors going forward, and we started to make our analysis and try to envision what will go on in the next a few weeks to come. We never imagined that, okay, scenarios.
Mhm.
Uh, in to say something positive, okay, the Israeli army, the Home Front Command, had the scenario of preparing to a national pandemic, which did use us as a landmark of how to prepare, but no one imagined a worldwide pandemic. Okay, when you have everything closed, and when we had our first quarantine back in starting at mid-March 2020,
Mhm.
suddenly you can't travel, you are at home, okay? You can travel to your office, okay, because we are regarded in Israel Trauma Coalition as part of a emergency, one of the major emergency organizations, because we are giving support for other organizations, psychosocial support, and these categories as a must. So you have the pass to drive along different police checkpoints, but you're not doing that so much because you don't have the partners to meet over there.
Mhm.
And when you do have your partners to meet over there, they are too engaged with working with their own populations, and they don't have any time for something which is worth a discussion. They are trying to understand their own roles and responsibilities, because in that times, and I will just say one word about it professionally. Okay, the way the home front command, the Israeli ministries have prepared, are preparing for emergency, is is pretty much by saying that the fundamentals of emergency preparedness is having a resilient local council which can handle it alone. It can be independent. It can take its own decisions. It can lead its population, etc., etc. And suddenly, because there was so much unknown, the Israeli government took all the responsibilities and say, you don't get to decide. Okay,
Mhm.
we tell you what to do. And the local governments, the local councils didn't know how to understand the new situation. It took time.
Mhm.
So I do. My colleagues, my partners are not available. I'm trying to support them by phone, by Zooming, and it took us time to understand what is Zoom. And and you're doing that from home. Your my son and my daughter can't be at their school because they're now at home, and you're trying to make some order of that new mess. Okay, when my wife is an oncological nurse, so she is also part of the emergency organizations, and so she is going from 8 o'clock until late afternoon to work.
Mhm.
I'm staying at home. It's the best. It's the time that my partners need me the best. The time my kids need me the best. There is much unknown. Okay, and we are trying to make a sense of all that, and I'm trying not only to do, and I'm trying to do it smartly, okay, because I'm a professional, okay, so I have to make something smart of that. The learning curve was very high in my respect, okay, of ITC, and both for me, for myself, because what we did actually, and I'm doing it from that time on, okay, I'm my little girl, which is has which is more dependent on me than my teenager son, which doesn't want to see me half of the time. Needs some order, some sense of what to do next. Okay, so I started by taking what the school does, what everything does, an hour po, an hour there, and making her a timetable, okay, to work upon. When she's zooming, okay, I can work. When she is not zooming, I have to make a lunch. I have to make a different other ways to support her, also emotionally. Okay, it was very frightening, and I need to support my kids. My teenager had the schools for the adults from the 7th grade and on have a nicer timetable for studying. Okay, so they start at 8 o'clock, they finish around 3 or 4 p.m. So you know he's busy, maybe too much busy, but he is busy. He has his sequence from 8 o'clock up until 4 p.m. And during all that time, okay, this is the most important time for me to give my best, okay, for ITC, for my partners. And thank God, okay, I think I can really thank God. I have two good children, okay. That was not a good example of what happened before. They're very good children. They were understanding, they understood the different pressures. It enabled me to work long hours, okay. I understood. And for me, that meant that I'm starting my day pretty much around 4 a.m. Okay, so I can start ahead. I'm working ahead, I'm preparing. By 7 or 8 a.m. when they are up, okay, I have already 3 hours ahead. So I can support them also. And when my wife is back from her work, then she has the responsibility for the home, and I'm back fully engaged on trying to keep up the pace of what I haven't been able during the hours that I was alone. Okay, and it also, and we also have to understand it. COVID-19 broke what for Israeli, I think for every humans, but Israeli are typical in that, is a must. We are social people. Okay, we love the community. We love our family. We are dependent on our grandmother and grandfather. They are coming, they're taking. Okay, brother and sister and neighbors and everyone is all. We are too involved, and suddenly you're back into your small unit of family, to your nuclear family, and you can't rely on your grandfather and grandmother. It's not only that you can't rely on them. The news headlines say that you should be afraid for their health. Okay, even more for your own. So it's out of the question. And I think that was the most powerful effect, the most powerful effect, the most powerful hardship of COVID-19. I think it's pretty much up until now. Okay, my father and mother saw my kids for the first time, I think pretty much 3 or 4 months ago, and that was in the garden.
Mhm.
The first time they hug my kids, okay, their grandchildren was 2 months ago when we went into vacation. So you had to do COVID-19 checkup.
Mhm.
So you do the checkup, you know you clean, so now you can meet your your father and mother. That's that. You have a small window of opportunity for the next 24 hours that you can say that you can hug them. And now we have some a small hope with a vaccine, okay, but still, okay, you have a uncertainty, okay, from zero time back in March up until now about what's the threat is really is the threat is stable or is it new, okay. We call that in professional literature VUCA, which is volatile, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. It's all together, okay? It doesn't let you be off guard. So I think that both professionally and personally, okay, it's very demanding emotionally. And for me, the last few months meant going back from home to be homebound, to be back with my partners, trying to make some to enable the communities back, to meet my social friends, meeting my colleagues, my partners at work, going back and meeting the different council outside. And I remember that I was in the last, in the second quarantine, which is the one before this one. We are now still in quarantine. That we're now on the end, the last week of the third quarantine in Israel. So in the second quarantine, I had to work, okay? And so I went one day to visit different council in what we call Wadi Ara. Al Fachem is a big Arab municipality in Wadi Ara, and we have a few more like Ara, Baka, Al Garbiya, and more. And all of them are marked red. Okay, they are marked red because they have a high percentage of one identified as positive for COVID-19. But my role is to help them, so I have to visit them. So should I go, okay, or should I stay with my family, okay, and do it by Zoom? Okay, well, Zoom it's a fantastic platform. Okay, we see its strengths right here, but it doesn't replace as what we call in the army, we call the seeing the white in the eyes of your partners. Okay, to make the personal contact. And I decided after some deliberating about that to go and visit the head of municipalities in those four municipalities. And I remember myself, okay, going from one to another, okay, joking with my friends along the way that it's like, I don't know how it's called in English. It's like they were parties when you are trying to infect each other. Okay, so I'm doing a party of going and infecting one after the other, going to the best places to be infected. And it was something that to think about, okay, personally, but it was not something that it was not to think about professionally. And you're trying to work that line along all those few months, and it's harsh. It's harsh. And even and though it's harsh for me, I can still say that is the most. You ask me about my personal take on that. I think the one who is most impacted in the last few months are the kids. They are the vulnerable population. Okay, in my house. The resources are low, okay, and they are pretty much dependent on us. My small girl, which is now to be 8, just last week was after 9 months. Okay, it was the first time that she said that she can't handle it anymore. She wants to be back to school. Okay, and she never complained. And my teenager doesn't complain, but in my eyes, he's the one who is suffering more because in the last 9 months, there have been only 10 days that they have been in schools. Okay. I think it's to be a teenager when your social image is everything, okay, and be out of school, out of your social network, it's very hard, okay. And I think that we're doing also our best, okay, to handle this strange situation and give hope, because we, I'm staying from a zero time up until now. We have to keep some perspective, okay? And I can say that as an Israeli, which have been in a few wars or disaster areas in the last 25 years, we have our electricity, okay? We have our cellular, we have our homes intact. We have many of our people alive, okay? We have our hospitals intact. Everything is working. We have people, okay, most impacted at home, okay? It's hard, but and it's threatening, but it's not something that is acute as the ones that we have been prepared before. It's hard mainly because it's too long. Okay, it is too long for everyone. Okay, to handle such a long challenge.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, for you, it really seemed like your day to day, you were, driving, you were meeting with people. It was so social, like you said. And I know that's a very big part of the Israeli culture, a lot of our lives as well. And it seems like then, you had to you were at home much more and you got to spend more time with your children. Would you say that kind of now, with COVID, you had more time to spend with your children? And in general, like, was that a way that you kind of kept busy or got past this hardship or got, worked through it? Or maybe there were other ways that that helped you work through the hardship?
Well, I can tell personally, okay, I am a home guy, okay, so I don't need the excuse of COVID-19 to have a quality time with my kids. I think pretty much COVID-19 enabled us to have a different discussion, more concentrated discussion, our discussions around emotional stuff that usually is something that is between your chores, between your day-to-day. It demanded us, okay, to have our attention to stuff that usually it's in our back of our mind, and as a psychologist, it's it's not only on the back of my mind. It's always something that I'm thinking about.
Mhm.
But it put it out there, not only for myself, but for everyone. Uh, for me, for myself, it didn't give me a more quality time with my kids. Quite the opposite, because I had my time to do the best work in those 9 months, and it was demanding. It made the conflict of home versus work, of being professional versus being personal, a much tougher conflict. The work session, or have writing a document, and for the document have a deadline, and suddenly your daughter needs you to have her home classes made, or she needs you to help her. And it is not a conflict that you can predict or handle in orderly manner. So, from 4 p.m. after school, I'm supposed to be attentive to my kids. Okay, I have to be attentive to my kids 24/7. I have to be attentive to my work 24/7. I have a conflict 24/7. I have to make more time of when I have less time, and I have to make ways to do my work and to better, and to do their day to day much more orderly, and not give my work to be on their behalf, something that they will suffer from.
Mhm.
Because when you work, when you're zooming, when you work, okay, and you're not there, and it's something that they are suffering for, and you don't want to be that father. At least not I. I don't want to be the one who has a TV open 24/7, so my kids can finish all the kids series in 1 month. Okay, I want something else, and it demands you to be more agile and more practical, and suddenly you understand that the thing that you are teaching others can help you.
Mhm.
Okay, can really help you. Okay, doing the schedule for my kids. Okay, I can show you it's in Hebrew, but I can show you how it looks like. Is something, okay, that enable her, my daughter to have something she can control from 8 o'clock up until 8 p.m. And she can handle her it's in her own way.
Yeah.
She is in control. Okay, she knew when I will be available. She knew when I won't be available. She knew when to take lunch, when she can have a book, when she can have a TV. Those times demanded us to be a stronger home unit
Mhm.
than before. Okay, a more organized, more compromising, because it's like a pressure cooker. Okay, when you put everyone in the house, okay, suddenly you have some conflicts that you never anticipated, or something that had been before, but got even more. Okay, suddenly everyone in Israel, myself included, got to know that they have their terrace, they have their garden. Okay, what a wonderful thing that I have a terrace or a garden. I can go out and I can breathe. Thank God, we always like animals. So I have a dog. Okay, so you can walk your dog. Okay, and suddenly you have an excuse to go. It's demanded us to understand what is important and what is not important, to make that discussion also available with the kids, to understand as parents, doing the priorities. What do you want to fight about? What is not worth the fight? It's always something as a parent that you are thinking about when you it's so condensed. You have to make it something very conscious. And
was there something kind of specific that maybe like you did that kind of helped you get through it? I know you talked a lot about like creating all these like calendars and the time plans for your kids and doing those kinds of things, but like for yourself, would you say that you took kind of like an extra step to do something to help you?
I think it went back into my own values, okay, which I usually share with my colleagues and my partners in work and off work, is to be transparent. Okay, we are sharing. Okay, right now a different time. Okay, it's something. If I'm stepping into something which is not, which I can't predict, I can share that with my partners, okay, with my colleagues. I think that sharing your hardship and your challenges with others enables you to be more comfortable with what you do, okay, understand what is important. It doesn't take off the pressure. Okay, you still have your deadlines, you still have your people that are coming to you, because I will give you a picture. Okay, I am handling as Israel Trauma Coalition director in the north. I am supporting 120 municipalities. 120 municipalities means, okay, that I have at least 120 people that I'm working with, plus the different ministries that are supporting them, the home front command, okay. So I have many people that can in one time tell me, I need from you, Amir, a program in that and that and that. And for everyone, it is important as much as the other. Okay, so you can't tell them I'm prioritizing. Okay, so it's always urgent. Okay, and if Sharon, you will be in Israel, so you know in Israel everything is urgent. And to make sure that I can do my work best, okay, I have to step back every day. Okay, make my priorities. Okay, make a map of the different challenges. Not only look at what is under the spotlight, but look ahead. Okay, plan ahead, which is very important. And to do that right, okay, I'm always okay waking up early at 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. okay, to do that at a normal day. But on those days, I understood I have to wake up at 4 a.m. okay, to do that well. And I think by having that map, okay, in front of me, being transparent with my colleagues, okay, is on my plate and what is when I can go get back to them with a solution or so. Being very frank about what's what can what can I really do, help me to help me to give the solutions in the best manner, okay, in the best time, in the best solutions. And sometimes, okay, it was okay for to say, I can't do that. I have to postpone that. I will give it later. And suddenly, when you are pushing back things and you are surprised to see that it's not always urgent. Okay, nothing gets hurt if something is delayed 24 hours, even though it's always urgent. You can, okay, make things best if you work them, okay, if you plan them, even in harsh time.
Yeah. Can you just, for the people who are watching about, sort of like the Israel Trauma Coalition, can you just go into a little bit more about the work that you're doing there specifically, like in terms of like, the specific sort of like department you may be working with or stuff like that? Just sort of a general explanation of that.
Okay, so Israel Trauma Coalition is a non-profit organization. Okay, was it has been in place from 2001 when the terror attacks began in the Second Intifada in Jerusalem, and it pretty much was as work of the some of the American Jewish federations that pushed some of our non-profit organizations that are part of the Israel Trauma Coalition to work together, because we understood that there are many good people that are doing very good work to help those affected by the terror attacks. And to do that right, they have to be coordinated, because it's better to do that by being coordinated. Since then, we had a few things that happened. 2006 in Israel was what we called September 11, Israel September 11, because we understood the first time that the local council, okay, can't be rescued at emergency times. It has to be prepared in advance. Back, I was an officer of the Home Front Command, a reserve officer from 99. When we started that in 1999, we pretty much came with the approach that when it's time of emergency, we will go to the head of council. We will tell him or her that give us the key to your city. We will give it back to you after we will take care of everything, and that will be okay. And suddenly, in 2006, we understood that there are too many councils. It's too many demanding. You can't replace the ones who are in charge in day to day, because it's not right to replace the mayor or other officials. You have to maintain the continuity of authority. And then Israel Tamil Coalition began with the Home Front Command to learn how to support the different councils in emergency preparedness. So that was a second domain that we entered after the first one, which was psychosocial support, okay, for trauma victims. Now we had the second one, which was emergency preparedness. along the different years, we came into a new domains like community emergency preparedness, community resilience. We understood the term resilience is much more right than other terms, because it's very positive, and it states that you are going for the resources and not for the challenges, not for the weaknesses. You're not treating people through their weaknesses. You're helping people much more when you are enabling them to tap into their resources. So we use that approach with the community approach, and we also stepped into the field of trauma oriented therapy, which is short-term therapy, which is there are many there are many methods, but we learned through time what are the best practices for short-term interventions. So we have those 4 domains. We have more than 40 organizations. Many of them are a one-man show. Some of them are big organizations, big non-profit organizations, NGOs in Israel, like Natal, Iran, Amcha, Israel, and many more. Okay. So we have hundreds of freelance or other professionals in those organizations. Some of them are hired in those organizations. Some of them are freelance in those organizations. So we have a very diversified community of professionals in those 4 fields of work. Okay, going back to emergency preparedness. Okay, psychosocial support for teams, meaning social workers, education, etc. Community, and of course trauma-centered therapy. And what the way ITC works right now is in, let's say, 3 dimensions. One dimension is the resilience centers, okay, that Israel Trauma Coalition is managing professionally. Okay, the resilience centers are, we have 11 right now. We have the ones near the Gaza Strip. We have the ones in Judea and Shomron. We have the one in the Negev, which is for the Bedouin community. All those resilience centers are right now a partnership that is led by the different ministries, headed by the Ministry of Health. And that is one, okay, dimension that we are working through. It was the resilience center pretty much was a concept that was thought of by ITC, okay, was engaged through the partnership with the Ministry of Health and other ministries. We have the Ministry of Welfare over there, Ministry of Education. We have, of course, other ministries as well. But those are the 3 that are leading the social work itself. In the Bedouin ministry, we have the Ministry of for the Galilee and the Negev, okay, and the Ministry for the Agriculture, which is something inherently in Israel that is in charge of the Bedouin of in the Negev, the south of Israel. So that's one. Second one is what we call is the training centers, one of which I am heading, okay, in Northern Israel. The training centers are pretty much the way to lead the resilience effort when you don't have, okay, the resilience centers, because resilience center has three main legs, okay, that it stands upon. Okay, one is the leg of emergency preparedness, okay, the emergency preparedness and a training of teams on different skills. That's one, okay. The second leg for a resilience center is the one of community resilience, okay, because we want to build it not only for the council, okay, we want to build it from ground up, from the community. And the third is the one of therapy. Okay, we have a clinical center over there. We have offices when people that are hurt by terror or war get funded partially by the Israeli government, get psychological treatment, therapy. Now, emergency preparedness and resilience building in places that you don't have the resilience center is pretty much dependent on whatever fund that we can bring on our own, okay, or by raising different resources from the government, from the different offices, etc. But it can never be, okay, the same effort, concentrated effort that the resilience center has, okay, and the result of that is that the training center are pretty much focused on two, okay. The one is emergency preparedness and training of teams. That's one. The second is community resilience. The third, which is clinical support, okay, cannot exist. Clinical support is very expensive, okay. You can't provide it without government support for a long time. I can still say that we did clinical support when emergency situations did occur. Okay, for example, in my training center, we did support for the ones affected by the fire, the last fires in Haifa and the Carmel. Okay, we did clinical interventions with something around 60 to 70 individuals that have suffered from trauma due to the fire. But you can't make that support for a long time. That's one, okay? The second, also the work that I'm doing in the first two domains has to be a work that is planned ahead, okay, non-stop, with reinforcing the partnership with the local councils, with the ones that are leading the different districts of the government offices in the north. We have a very good partnership, for example, with the welfare department, with the welfare office of Israel North and Haifa district. We have a good partnership with the Homefront Command, okay, which is very important because the Homefront Command is the one who is leading the preparedness and also the time of disasters, also the interventions. But the Homefront Command has no budget, okay, to make us work with him. We have to rely on budgets that we bring by ourselves from the support of different emergency from different from the Jewish federations from the US, okay, from different Israeli government offices. Usually what we are trying to do is doing a match, okay? We want to make our work to be sustainable. We don't want to have something which is only dependent of the funds that we are bringing. So we're trying to make a match. So the local government or the government body is having a budget which is equal and even more to the one that we are bringing. And we have a huge area, okay, for example, in Israeli North, that we are trying to support by using only one training center for all of Israeli North. Okay, for example, I will give you the dimension, okay, that is a different, to understand the proportions. We have 5 resilience centers surrounding Gaza, which is very important because it's constant fire, constant trauma. It's so important, okay? And they're supporting around 70,000 or 80,000, don't get me by the number, okay, people around there. I am supporting, okay, an Israeli Trauma Coalition training, a Nothern Training Center, more than 2 million people, okay, in the north, okay, which thank God is not under constant fire, okay, but we have our constant threat of Syria and Hezbollah from Lebanon and Iran from Syria, and constant threat. And there are many things that you don't hear on the news that are happening from the day to day. And there is no resilience center here. Okay, there is no one that to prepare the different municipalities in places that are in topics that are on that we have the speciality to prepare upon, because the Homefront Command does a very good work of preparing for protocols, for a different, it has its own exercises for different parties in the councils, from welfare to public information and everything, okay? But it's not as professional and not so concentrated as being the work that we are doing, okay, when we are coming into a municipality. And to do that right, okay, what we do is we reinforce our partnership with the Homefront Command, with the Ministry of Welfare, for example, okay, with the Ministry of Health and Ministry of Interior, okay, which are the 4 most important bodies right now to prepare the civil area of Israel, okay, for a time of emergency. And we each bring part of our own speciality to the table. Okay, so I know what not to replicate, because the home front command brings a lot. Okay, the welfare office bring a lot, and the office of interior bring a lot. Everyone brings its own speciality into the table. Okay, and we are bringing what our added value is to the table by being very, very coordinated with all and every bodies that are around us. And if there is an independent work that is done, which is similar to us, okay, we are not replicating it in no way, because we have to save our efforts to the ones that don't have the resources. That's one. And second, we will focus our efforts on the different authorities and different councils that the home front command and our partners in the different offices will say that are needed as attention the most. It's a work which is done non-stop. Okay, we are planning ahead, a year ahead, but it's always okay, changing. And I will share, if you want, some examples from the last year, okay, and show you how it changed. But it demands us to be very agile, okay, to prepare well, to be very attentive to what is happening in the field, okay, not to be very high and not relevant. And it demands us to be very close to our partners, and it's not a mistake, okay, or me mispronouncing my intention right, okay. I view what some people will say are customers, okay, to be partners, okay, because we are partners to the way. Sometimes they get the training from me. Sometimes I get the input from them. Sometimes it's a round table. Sometimes it's different roles every time, okay? It's a partnership that is reinforced by a single purpose for reinforcing the municipality to give the best, okay, way and best practices to the ones who are supporting the community, supporting the individuals inside the community. We are not working with the community directly, but we're working with the community leadership. We're working with the professional teams within the municipalities. So we want to have the best practices, the best capacities, the best skills to be with those people. And we want those people, okay, all over, to be strong, okay, to be resilient by itself. We are very attentive to their own self-care. We want them to be to take care of themselves, and we were taking care of them intentionally, because we know when we're taking care of them, we're taking care of the community. We're taking care of them. The population will get better services and will get continuous services. If the professional teams in the councils, in the municipalities, when the leadership of the communities is struggling, it's very difficult to give the best services, the best support to the population itself, which is pretty much the end goal, okay? And that's our day to day, okay? So that's the training centers, okay? I'm keeping the line within my head. But as you can see, I can speak nonstop about that. The third dimension is our international work. okay, because we are doing the international work non-stop. Okay, we believe that giving as Jewish Federation gave so much to Israel. Okay, when something is hurting our brothers and sisters abroad, we have to give back. Okay, and we did that a lot. We did that in Florida when there was a shooting, and we did it in Pittsburgh and in Las Vegas, which is not a Jewish center, and we are doing work in Ukraine and in the Philippines when we had partnership with the Jewish Joint, okay, the Joint to work with the Philippines and Fukushima and everywhere. Okay, starting from Boston Marathon and on, we have been in a lot of places in the last years. I think it's good to have the information that we learned through the years and share it with everyone. Okay, it's good to learn that the information that others are learning around the world is something that we can bring back to Israel also. Okay, because you have to be very, very modest. Okay, we have a lot of expertise in the Rotam coalition, unfortunately, in Israel, unfortunately, but you have to know, okay, that you don't have the wisdom, okay, the whole wisdom, all the knowledge, okay, it's spread everywhere, and there is so much to learn about that and about the human behavior, and it's all about partnership, okay, it's all about partnering with different people around the world, okay, and really make it a better a place to live for everyone, okay, and I think that's a challenge. That's a challenge. And maybe I will add something, a fourth dimension that I didn't think about, but it's really important to state. Okay, we're doing a lot of work with the Home Front Command and the different ministries. Okay, with the Home Front Command, we have, as I said before, we have our a good partnership going back, I think, more than 15 years and more. Many of our experts, some of them are even people that were officers like me in the Home Front Command and do those work both inside and outside of the Home Front Command. So we have some of the norms of the Home Front Command within some of our organizations. We are totally believers in being hands-on, engaged, and very near to the people that we support. So we, in the last years, okay, we were also a part of the foundation of the schools for emergency management, the national schools for emergency management, and which is right now run by the Home Front Command. Okay, it was for years being managed by NEMA, which is a national authority for emergency management, and for some years from the Home Command. But no matter who managed it, we were a part of the instructors and training body of different programs, and we are right now. It's changed. It's right now stepping into a new phase, which is the Home Front Command started a school, okay, build a school in its own headquarters that is, it's supposed to be a national school, and we are stepping and taking that step with the Home Front Command, and we are very optimistic about being involved in new programs and new trainings, and training more bodies in Israel, etc., to the best of our knowledge, and with alongside with the professional of the Home Front Command, which are leading that body, of course. And we are also working with different ministries. Okay, so for example, tomorrow morning I have a meeting with the deputy of NEMA, which is in charge of preparing the different ministries at time of emergency. Okay, our efforts there are pretty much focused on national efforts. That's one, okay, because ministries are in charge of national efforts. But second, okay, we are also focused on building the capacity of the ones who are leading, because again, okay, the staff members of those ministries, as well as the ones who are in the district, like the ones I'm working up in North Israel, the staff members are the ones who are leading the effort. You have to take care of those people. You have to give them the skills, the knowledge, and maintain the self-care, to have them keep up the effort for a long time for Israel well-being. And again, usually when we are thinking about ministries, we think about gray people like clerks, etc., which are doing the work, but those people, okay, are moving so much resources and making so many important decisions, okay, and still have the same conflicts as myself, okay, of work versus home, of being grounded to earth after 9 months of non-stop work, and being in the gray zone, okay, because again, it's not glamorous, okay, to be in the offices, in the ministry offices. You get blamed of not doing things right, to be detached, to being an official, don't caring about the field work, etc. But someone needs to do that job of looking at the macro, okay, and we have to support them too. So that's the fourth challenge of Israel Atomic Coalition, okay, working with Home Front Command and supporting the different ministries.
Thank you. Yeah, we wanted to ask you about the impact, but you pretty much touched on that. And I think when you were describing the third kind of stem, like, yeah, you really touched about like the resiliency and the impact that, you know, the ITC and your work has on individuals and the communities. So I think that kind of covered it all.
What other questions did I miss?
I think
no, you were all good.
Everything?
You covered so much.
Everything?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a really good conversation, and we're really happy and excited for, you know, anyone who wants to watch it and really learn about, you know, what the Israel Trauma Coalition does and how their impact, you know, is just transformed the way that, you know, sort of Israel runs, especially during a global pandemic. So we do want to thank you for, you know, meeting with us tonight, for you this morning
pleasure.
for us, and just talking about it, you know, and just having more people just know about it.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, even what we saw just on the website when we opened it up and kind of read through it, like your story just gave so much more insight into everything, and just hearing about it from your perspective and the work that you do, and just how you described all the different parts of ITC and even about your life. I think that was really interesting, and thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you for having me.